everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today. I'll go ahead and start at 4 o'clock and we have quite a bit to cover. So I am Manisha Mishra. I'm the program director at Alabama Possible. And we have May Whiting. She is the data and research manager at Alabama Possible. And Keela Lawrence, who is the college transitions peer advisor at Alabama Possible. So our main thing is during this tumultuous and uncertain times, many students and their families, they are struggling navigating the college application and admissions process. In this webinar, college admissions officers will share what they are looking for in college applications. These insights will equip not only educators, but students and their families to create focused tools and to function and adapt to remote and socially distanced counseling practices. At this time, I would like to recognize our sponsors and thank them for believing in the work that we do, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama and Protective. I would also like to acknowledge our partners, Alabama Commission on Higher Education, Alabama Community College System, and Alabama State Department of Education, who support us in our endeavor of creating a college-going culture in the state of Alabama. This webinar will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel, and which will eventually be posted on our website. So if you want to go back to it, you can always access it. You can submit questions throughout the webinar using the chat feature or by commenting on Facebook Live if you're watching it on there. We are on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you can follow us and get up-to-date information on Alabama Goes to College campaign and the process of college access and success. So Alabama Goes to College campaign. Alabama Goes to College campaign equips Alabamians with tools and relationships so that every student can plan for, pursue, and complete valuable post-secondary credentials. So this Alabama Goes to College campaign consists of 3 components. The first one is Cash for College, which is FAFSA completion, and which is the first step towards post-secondary enrollment. Alabama College Application Week, which is next week, October 19th through 23rd, where over 50 colleges and universities in and around Alabama have waived off their application fees. And the third one is College and Career Decision Day, which takes place around May 1st, where we recognize all the students who've made a decision, whether they're going into 2-year, 4-year colleges, or whether they're going into the military. So their decision is what is celebrated. So for all of your information, the 2021-2022 FAFSA is open, and it is used to apply for fall semester 2021 through summer semester of 2022. A few quick FAFSA facts we wanted to share with all of you. First of all, what is FAFSA? It is the free application for federal student aid. Then there is Pell Grant, which pays for a higher education beyond high school, and you don't have to pay it back. And most high school seniors in Alabama qualify for Pell Grant. The maximum amount is $6,345, and the average cost of tuition at 2-year college is $4,770. And why is FAFSA important? FAFSA is important first because 9 out of 10 students who complete the FAFSA enroll in college the following fall. So that is why FAFSA completion, for us to encourage FAFSA completion, is pertinent and important. So many scholarships that colleges provide also need FAFSA completion. Like even if you are a presidential presidential scholarship student, you have to complete your FAFSA in order to be able to receive that scholarship. And then it shows college admissions officers that you are you are interested in going to college and you're serious about attending school. So this is like I mentioned earlier, college application, Alabama College Application Week is next week, and colleges have waived off their application fees. So this is actually a statewide initiative that is part of the National American College Application Campaign. And in collaboration with Alabama State Department of Education, high school educators provide college interested students with individualized help and support and assistance through their college application process. Yeah. So anyway, so Alabama College Application Week, as I mentioned, is October 19th through October 23rd. And now I would like to introduce our panelists. We have Julia Martorell. She is from Boston University. Kyra Green, she's from Bowdoin College. Caroline Starks from Pomona College, and Jessica Koo, University of Chicago. So all yours, admissions officers.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to go alphabetically with Boston starting off. So Julia, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Julia Martorell. I'm an assistant director with the Board of Admissions at Boston University, and I'm also a very proud BU alum. I earned my degree through the College of Arts and Sciences in anthropology a couple of years ago. So I'm always very excited to talk to prospective students and for all of these wonderful opportunities that come with our CBO. So thank you, Alabama Possible, for having us today. So just a very brief overview of BU. We are a large private research and teaching institution, and we are located in the heart of the city of Boston. You do feel like you are a part of Boston and its communities when you are studying with us, and our students really love and enjoy that experience. We have about 16,000 undergraduate students, and we have 10 schools and colleges with over 300 courses of study, as well as a very flexible liberal arts-based curriculum. And so we really give you the opportunity to curate your education while you are at BU. And again, our students really enjoy being in the driver's seat when it comes to the classes that they're taking and the things that they're learning and the experiences that they are a part of. We've been asked to think of a defining feature of our institution, and the first thing that I thought of was this sort of philosophy that runs through our campus based on Howard Thurman, who was the first Black dean at an all-white institution, which was BU, and he was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s mentor when he was a student with us. And he had this philosophy of common ground, of finding the common thread that sort of connects us all despite our differences, and that all begins with conversation and deepening the questions and the topics that we talk about. And so we have our very own Howard Thurman Center for Common Ground, which is dedicated to doing just that. But his philosophies really do run through our entire student body and the communities that our students belong to, because they take that with them. And so our students are really looking for that deeper connection with those that surround them in their communities at BU, but also beyond it. And so something to look forward to when you're at BU is really asking those deep questions. I'm going to hand it over to Kyra now from Bowdoin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyra Green. I'm an assistant dean of admissions at Bowdoin College. Thank you again to Alabama Possible for having us. So we are a small private liberal arts school located up on the coast of Maine in Brunswick. We are about a 5-minute drive from the ocean, which is very exciting. You can get to that at any time of the year and take advantage of that. In terms of our size, we are only 2,000 students, all undergraduates, making it very easy to connect with not only your peers, but with staff and faculty as well, and build those really strong relationships. In terms of a defining feature of our campus, going with the same initials that Julia did, we were founded on this principle of the common good, meaning that your Bowdoin education should not be used just for personal gain, but should be shared with others. And that is still very core to who we are as an institution and what our students want to do with their lives. That being said, if you were to ask 5 different Bowdoin students to define the common good, you get 5 different answers, ranging from things like ensuring that others feel valued and seen and heard, to going out and really committing to investing in the local community, to the way that we interact with one another, the way that we view things like aid and a holistic admissions process. So we've really expanded upon what the common good means, but as I said, at its core, it is still the notion that your education should be used not only for yourself, but to really impact the world around you. And with that, I will pass it over to Carolyn at Pomona.
Hey all, my name is Carolyn Starks and I'm an assistant dean at Pomona College. I am originally from Alabama, so the state is near and dear to my heart. So I'm also going to say something that might be quite controversial. War Eagle, sorry, any Roll Tiders out there. I'm super, super, super excited to be working with Alabama Possible this year and working with you young, bright, brilliant, oh, Lisa, I knew it was coming. Working with you bright, brilliant young people and you advisors who are working. Pomona is located in Claremont, California, which is about 35 miles east from downtown Los Angeles. One of our defining factors is the Claremont College Consortium. We are part of the only intentional consortium in the country. Pomona is a small school, about 1,600, but because of the Claremont colleges, you have access to the third largest library in the state of California, 6,000 different young people to interact with, and over 2,700 courses you could choose from. So the Claremont College Consortium is definitely something that really allows our students to have a pretty special liberal arts experience, but a medium-sized research in terms of opportunities. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and friend at UChicago, Jessica.
Hi, everybody. Again, we have all said this, but thank you to Alabama Possible for hosting us today. My name is Jessica Q. I'm an assistant director of admissions at the University of Chicago. We are located right in the city of Chicago. You can kind of see in my little virtual background here. And one of the, I think, sort of defining features of the University of Chicago, we have less than 7,000 students, but each of our students participates in our core curriculum. This has 8 different subject areas, honestly similar to what you're already doing in school, with a little bit of math, science, English, history, foreign language, the arts, that sort of stuff. But then kind of as all of my wonderful colleagues have touched on, a wide variety of opportunities and ways to like really engage academically within UChicago as a whole. And we'll sort of talk about ways to showcase, you know, who you are as a student and a person over the next 40-ish minutes here or so. So I'm actually going to turn it back over to Carolyn to get us started a little bit about the application process and kind of what we're going to cover today.
Yes, so let me share my screen. Oh, sorry, I was doing some research on a man that I admire, Benjamin E. Mays. Okay, so let me go into the present mode. There we go. So today we're going to be talking about how you all can put your best foot forward in terms of how to utilize the application that will allow you to really showcase yourself and again put your best foot forward, because applying to college is very daunting and you have 4 experts here who read applications every single year. We've read thousands of applications amongst the 4 of us, and we thought it would be really helpful to let you know how to use the application to advocate for yourself in the admissions process. So in this presentation, we're going to be talking about how you can showcase who you are by telling us about yourself, the quantitative foundation, qualitative qualities, intellectual curiosity, and parading your personality. All of these things are critically important for you to understand how you're being read and how you can use, again, the application to highlight and showcase yourself. So tell me about yourself. What's really important for you to know is crediting your context and understanding your lived experiences, your background, where you're coming from, where you go to school, all brings so much information to us as readers to know who you are. When I read an applicant from, oh goodness, what's a school off the top of my head? If I read a school from Lamp High School in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm like, oh, this is a really great student, they're doing really cool things, but they're not taking any IB classes, that's not fair for me to hold that against that student because that school doesn't offer any IB classes. So every time we enter an application, we have to put on the goggles of putting you in your educational attainment opportunity context to realize what is offered at your high school, how you're challenging yourself in your high school, and how you are getting involved outside of the classroom. So recognizing that, you know, if you're working 30 hours a week because you're having to help pay for bills or take care of a loved one or those kinds of things, these are all things that we want to take into account. And so being reflective on how you're interacting with your community and how your context really does, again, show us how you are able to take advantage of the different opportunities at your high school. It's all really, really important. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague at Boston University to talk about the quantitative pieces of your application.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. That's a great segue to talk about sort of the foundation of your application. That doesn't mean that it's the most important part, but it is definitely something that we look deeply into, and that is your quantitative factor. So transcript, your test scores, class rank. You are going to college primarily to learn. And so we want to make sure that you have what it takes to succeed at our institutions and our academics. And that is all really based on what you have been doing with your academics in high school. And so we look at all sorts of different quantitative features in your application. Your transcript is something that we begin with. And so we're looking at all 4 years of high school. We want to make sure that you are able to succeed in our academics. And so just excuse me one second, I have an alarm. Sorry about that. So when we look at your transcript, we are looking at the context within which you are achieving these grades. And so again, with that context, the classes that you are taking, how you are challenging yourself within the curriculum that is offered at your high school. That's really important because, as Carolyn said, we can't hold students against the fact that they did not take international baccalaureate courses when the highest level that they are offered at their high school is honors. And so we keep all of that in mind when looking at your transcripts. Your test scores are also a part of the application. However, most of our institutions and a lot of institutions in this year, and all of us on this call today, have gone test optional. And what that means is that it is up to you to decide if your test scores are a good reflection of your academic capabilities and whether you'd like to include them in your application or not. I just want to say for everyone here that you will not be at a disadvantage if you do not submit test scores. There are so many students in this country and around the world that have been simply unable to take an SAT or an ACT, and we do not want to put any more barriers for your applications to college. And if that test score is one of them, simply ignore it, do not include it in your application, and you will be okay. Class rank is also something that we take into consideration. It just defines how you have succeeded within your high school context, and is something that is also important. Why do we look at all of these things? As this PowerPoint says, we don't want to set up to fail. If we feel that the academic courses that you have taken are not going to prepare you well enough to succeed at our academics, it would not be in your benefit to offer you admission to our institution just so that you can enroll and not have a good time and succeed with us. And so we want you to succeed, and that is mainly why we look at these quantitative factors. So next slide, please. Some advice when selecting your senior year courses for those of us on this call that are not seniors is to really challenge yourself. Think about the comfort level of how much you can challenge yourself as well, because I can sit here and ask you to take the highest challenging, most hardest classes that are offered at your high school, but I want you to succeed as well. I don't want you to take Calculus BC just to fail out. And so if you are comfortable with taking an honors calculus instead, please take that honors calculus instead. I'd rather see an A in honors calculus than a C in Calc BC. And so keep yourself and your mental health a priority. Remember that you are still a person that exists outside of school. And so we want you to enjoy your senior year, to be academically successful, but also to have fun and to live your life. It is your last year of high school. And so we don't want you to put the rigor of your classes before the enjoyment of your last year. And we will say the same exact thing for your time in school. Really, find that great balance and be engaged in your community, be a well-rounded student while still challenging yourself. Next slide. So, of course, sometimes we make mistakes, and that's okay. Take them as learning experiences, carry them with you into your time in college. And so if you took a really hard class that really stressed you out, maybe do something a little bit different with your time in college. Keep those with you. Don't put yourself down because of them. As Dory says, just keep swimming and keep going. You will succeed in different areas. And of course, use the additional information piece to your benefit. This is a wonderful place where you get to advocate for yourself and give us a little bit more detail. Oftentimes I will see that a random semester in high school had lower grades than the rest of them. Something in life happens. Life keeps happening despite what we try to do to not let it affect our grades. It really does. And so let us know what happened in your life that changed your GPA, that changed your ability to succeed with your coursework. We're going to use that when we read the application. It's not going to be something that makes you look bad. we actually really appreciate when you include those details with your application, because that way we can understand what happened so much better. What we're really trying to do with your application is get to know you. So help us get to know you the best that we can.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Julia. So I think, you know, once we already have this understanding of, okay, where are you at academically, the next thing that we're going to look at is what are you like as a student and a person, right? We want students to come to our respective campuses that are going to be happy on our campuses, but we also want to make sure that you are going to be a good community fit for us. So on the next slide, we kind of go through a few different sort of themes here about, you know, are you going to contribute to our campus community? Each of our schools, you know, we're not looking for you to have a super long list of everything that you're involved in or have won an Emmy and a Nobel Prize at the age of 17. We just want to see that you're involved in some capacity and that there are things to celebrate about you, sort of no matter really what they are, right? So we want to see, you know, you're going to come to our campus and you're going to get involved in some way and that you will be a good, positive addition to our campus. So would we feel comfortable, you know, the roommate test on this slide is kind of like, would we feel comfortable putting you in one of our dorms, right? And placing you with a couple of other of our students, and would you sort of like fit into the fabric of our campus and add in a positive manner to the fabric of our campus? One of sort of the main ways in your application that we will get an understanding of who you are as a student and a person outside of all of kind of like the data and the numbers of your transcript and your testing is really about what you're doing outside of school. And again, Carolyn talked about this quite eloquently before, but we're really trying to get, you know, that feel for what is your context. We don't expect, again, you know, any amazing, wonderful accolades. If you have a family obligation or you're involved in community service in your community or do something in school, these are all things that we want to know about. So all of the information that you're putting on your application is helpful contextual information for us to get a good understanding of who you are as a real, well-rounded, unique 3D human and student. So we're really spending the time to try to get an understanding of who you are as a person and figuring out, like, are you going to be a good fit for our campus? Are you going to come here and do well academically, like Julia just talked about, but also do well in a social and personal context on our campus? So are your values and the things that you care about going to align with the things that our respective universities care about? So in our intros, we gave you a little bit of information about some things that, you know, make our universities unique and some things that we all care about. So kind of thinking about that as you are looking at the list of schools that you are applying to. I think another really great way that we understand a little bit more about who you are and the things that you're bringing to the table is the amount of time that you've spent on your application, right? If you're taking the time to be thorough and give us, you know, well-written and proofread answers, and we'll go into a second kind of like, you know, what we're looking for there. But I think taking the time, and we know that this process can be stressful and a little scary, and, you know, we all on the call, you know, we've all gone through this, so we fully understand that, and we're here to help and support you. But taking the time and kind of like planning ahead to make sure that you are able to really advocate for yourself in the best way. And so thinking about, like, you know, you don't want to apply 10 minutes before the deadline. You know, you want to make sure that you're sort of like giving yourself time to really think about all of the things that are important to you and doing the research of the schools that you're applying to and what's important to them, and figuring out, like, okay, where does that align and why am I going to be a good representative and a good match for this university? I think one of the main places, specifically with the institutions that are represented on this call, something that is important to all of us and you know, every single university, but specifically because we are the ones talking to you, the four of us, is that sort of aspect of intellectual curiosity. And so what does that mean exactly? On the next slide, we have a fun little meme that I appreciate, but intellectual curiosity is, really about showcasing that you are excited to learn. And there are going to be things that you are going to be passionate about. Maybe, like since you were 5, I want to be a doctor or whatever. There are some of us, myself included, that are still trying to figure out what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So not everybody is as fortunate to be able to know. But I think demonstrating intellectual curiosity means that you are excited about learning and you're excited about taking this next step into college because you are ready to engage with people who have a different background and experience than you and have different sort of like learning styles and things that they've learned through their education thus far, and are ready to kind of take that next step and dive deeper into a specific subject area or a couple of specific subject areas. And so where, in your application, we're seeing this is kind of almost, this is maybe not the best answer, but throughout the entire thing, right? It's in the classes that you're taking in your school right now. It's in the letters of recommendation that you're receiving from, your teachers, talking about who you are inside the classroom, where you add value in the classroom and in your community, but it's also specifically in the essays that you're writing and really being able to showcase, here's the things I'm passionate about, and here's why I'm excited about going to college in general or about your university specifically, depending on the college that you're applying to, and really being able to, like, in a manner, like in an articulate manner, talk a little bit about what you're going to bring to the table and what you're hoping to get out of 4 years on that campus. On the next slide, I think specifically with our schools, we all have a liberal arts component, and many schools that do have a liberal arts curriculum are going to have that indicated somewhere on their website. And so we're really looking for students that have a wide variety of interests. So even if you maybe want to be a doctor at UChicago and the other schools represented on this call, we're still going to ask you to take a foreign language class or, be excited about a history class and that kind of stuff. There are universities where you don't have to do that, right? But I think specifically for liberal arts colleges, keeping in mind that you are going to be asked to take classes and participate in things that might be a little bit outside of your academic comfort zone. And so showcasing that, even though I want to be a doctor, I'm just really going down this doctor path. I don't know why it was in my mind. Even though I want to be a doctor, I am still excited to get to take a couple of, Japanese classes and learn about history while studying abroad or something like that. So kind of keeping that in mind, and as you're going through this process and really showcasing that liberal arts fit and the interdisciplinary interest fit. One of the other things to think about with the essays that you'll be asked to write, and also Kyra will touch on this in a second, but through your sort of all of the extracurriculars that you are listing for us, we're not asking you in these essays to really just rehash your resume or give us, some sort of, I want to be a doctor, so here's what I'm going to do and here's how I'm achieving it at your university. Really keeping the values of the institutions that you're applying to in mind in these essays, and thinking about, UChicago, for example, and all of the other schools on this call, we have really wonderful pre-professional opportunities for you, but we at UChicago do not have a pre-med track or major. So you're going to be, again, asked to take things a little bit outside of your major and outside of your comfort zone. So I think here, taking the time to do a little bit of research about the schools that you are interested in and figuring out what those schools care about, and then figuring out where you're a good fit there, both academically, as Julia was just talking about, but personally and socially. So where am I going to add value to campus? What am I excited to get out of this curriculum? What am I excited to do for the next 4 years? And what am I hoping to kind of get out of those 4 years is really what we're hoping that you will showcase sort of in your essays specifically as you're going through this process. I am going to turn it over to Kyra to talk a little bit more about where you can showcase your personality and continue to put your best foot forward.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So we've talked a bit about the importance of laying the groundwork, the foundation, so to speak. So for building a house, we talked a bit about what the framework of that house might look like. We've talked about the nails, we talked about all those pieces. We then went into a bit of doing the research ahead of time and thinking about how your house might fit into our neighborhood, so to speak. And now I want you to start thinking about how you're going to decorate that house. So for thinking about an application, we are trying our best to get to know you as fully as we can, as wholly as we can. And so on that last slide, you saw the meme about showing all your different personalities in your different friend groups. We want to see all those personalities. We all practice holistic admissions. And so again, we want to know you as fully as we can. So show us everything that you can, and we're going to talk about how you can do that. So this is an example of one way we might give you the opportunity to showcase that. So I believe for all of our schools, we have a supplement option. So for Bowdoin, for example, we don't have the why Bowdoin question, but we ask you to engage with something that means a lot to us. And so I think for all of the schools here, we have something along those lines. And that is a way to not only show why you like our schools, but also to show how you might fit with these schools. So here we see an example of a prompt that says, if there are aspects of your identity you feel are not captured elsewhere, provide that information below in 50 words. So this student wrote about being a calculus nerd and making snowflakes and that type of thing. Will this response make or break their application? No. But does it add a bit of levity to the conversation? Does it show them in a different light? Yes. As you've seen tonight, all of us on the call are thrilled about talking about college admissions, but you've also seen we've done it in our own way. And so we are real people behind the screens, behind the applications, behind the institutions that are reading your applications. We're diving in, we're reading you individually, we're looking at you for you. And so we want you to feel comfortable sharing with us as much as you can. So think about that personality piece. So an example again of how you might do this is through the activities list. So for example, for track and field, this person wrote, I can't sprint, so I run lots of slower circles instead of fewer faster circles. They could have written was varsity captain for 4 years and left it at that. But they decided to add a bit of comedy, which shows that they're a humorous person. So we're looking at those smaller details and again, looking for every single thing we can to get to know you. For Writing Center Coach, they wrote nominated by humanities faculty and talked a bit about what that looked like. So again, we'd rather have more information than less because our goal in the end is to get to know you as best as we can as a 3D whole human, despite us being in 2D right now through a screen. Other examples, a sibling babysitter or a dog walker, as Carolyn mentioned earlier. Everything you're doing beyond the classroom is important and interesting to us. And so if you are spending time looking after younger siblings, caring for a family member, working a part-time job, we want to know those things because not only do they show why you may not be doing other activities, but it also shows responsibility. It shows leadership. It shows you're motivated. It shows you can balance multiple things. It shows time management. And so we want to give you credit everywhere we can, and we can only do that if you share that information with us. So again, this person wrote downhill skiing and talked about where they learned to do that and when they learned to do it and how they did this through resilience and coaching despite their lack of coordination. I also lack coordination. So for me reading this, I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're like me. And we're looking for those little moments to make you pop off the page and those connections so that we can again see you in our campus communities. This person also mentioned reading. I too love reading. I love Mrs. Toni Morrison. We don't have to talk about that right now, but at all of our schools, I'm sure we are very excited about people who love to read. And while that's not starting a nonprofit, while that's not going on a alternative break trip or something like that, it does show something you value and shows who you would be in our community based upon what you're doing now. So what did this activities page tell us about the student? It shows again that you're not afraid to have some humor in your application. There was a good balance of maturity and self-awareness, but also there was that humorous aspect to it. As Carolyn mentioned, we are reading thousands of applications, and so any way that you can stand out, feel free to do that. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be ashamed of that. We want to see those pieces. This demonstrated intellectual curiosity, as I mentioned, leadership, and also those personal hobbies like reading. It shows that this person valued a relationship and community building. Jessica talked a lot about who you might be on our specific campuses. That's really important to us. We all have fairly small community populations, and so we want you to be able to engage with your peers, to have those conversations in office hours or out on the quad with your faculty members, to go and talk to someone who works in the dining hall when you're swiping in, to just have those informal community-minded experiences. This is important to us at all of our schools. And last but not least, it shows you're a real person. We're all real people, as you've seen, and again, we want to connect with you as best as we can.
Sorry, I was muted. So you have heard from three, we like to think, experts in the admissions field, and we just wanted to, again, let you know, at the end of the day, we are invested in you going to college. So if you choose to apply to any one of our institutions, we will be absolutely thrilled. Me probably more than anybody else because I love Alabama more than they do. Maybe not, but we will be so thrilled that you go to college. But if you're looking at a community college or a practical skill college, or you're looking at a school that's close to home, or a school that's very far away, we want you to know that there are 4,000 different colleges and universities in the United States alone. There are even more outside of the United States. So we hope that this was something that allowed you to learn how to apply to a college in a more comprehensive and more informed way. A couple of things that I also wanted to mention. We talked about the essay a little bit, but I just wanted to harp on the essay is one piece where I feel like a lot of students probably have the most anxiety surrounding that piece of the application. And there's a notion, an idea out there that you have to write about a really traumatic experience in your life to get into college. You do not have to do that, and we are not expectant of your trauma to be like, oh, this person has grit and resiliency and they're amazing and they can rise above the challenges. If you send that to us, we will read it graciously and we will be very, very honored that you shared that with us, but we do not expect that. And so again, that doesn't have to be your identity. You can use the additional information piece to let us know. You can use the counselor letters of recommendation to let us know. That doesn't have to be who you are. So use the application to showcase who you want to be, who you're looking forward to growing into, and who you are now. And so I'd now like to open it up to questions that you all may have for us. We would love to be resources for you, answering questions about our specific institutions. Many of us went to schools all over the country. We have an alum here, Julia, who went to BU. I know Kyra didn't go to Bowdoin, but she went to a really great school. Jessica, I actually don't know where you went to school, but I'm sure it's fabulous. And so we're able to talk about college and just answer questions that you all may have. And I see that there are some in the question right now. So I'm asking this to, oh, Keely, I'll let you run this, my bad.
No, you're so fine. I'm really glad that the students have questions because I feel like you all are great resources for them. And I love the fact that they're taking advantage of it. So I will ask one question. It's from earlier. This is more so for the Alabama Possible team. But a student asked, is the free application, so I'm assuming they're meaning Alabama College Application Week, is it just for Alabama colleges or is it for any college?
There are a few colleges that are in and around Alabama too. So outside of Alabama, a few colleges are on that list too. And that list has been, is going to be published soon, either today or tomorrow. It'll be available to everybody.
Perfect. All right. Going ahead to the next question. So will you take multiple students from the same high school if they're qualified? I think everyone's saying
yes. Can
so.
I just add a bit to that?
Please.
I know we talked a lot about looking at you and your school context, but we're also looking at you as an individual. So yes, you may be applying to the same school as your peers, but no one else has your experiences. No one else can tell your story. No one else has that narrative. And so if there are multiple students from the same school who would be great fits for us and who have the academic prep and who would be great community members, then we don't have a quota or a cap on how many students from each school we can take. And so just wanted to clarify that quickly.
So one student asked, and this is very particular, so what's the best college to go to if you want to be a journalist or a detective? And so what I will do, so that we do have this question and it can apply to different students, if you have a program that's unique to your own institution, if that happens to be journalism or detective, you can answer either of those questions.
So I know that the majority of us on here right now are liberal arts colleges. And so all of us are liberal arts colleges. Okay, amazing. So if you go to any one of these institutions, you will be given the opportunity to build a skill set or a toolkit that will allow you to build the future that you want. So fun fact, young people, 50% of the jobs that will be around in 10 years don't exist right now because of how fast technology is moving. And statistically, you will have about 7 careers in your lifetime. Even if, again, like Jessica said, you are dead set on being a doctor, you know, you probably might not switch out of that profession because it takes a lot of time to get there. So you must be really committed. But us in admissions, I know a lot of my friends who started off in admissions that are now in law school, and some of them are in think tanks. I'm thinking of your colleague who's now in DC, Kyra. Like, people just, you shift because you are multi-interested young people and multi-interested people, right? So being able to adapt and mold yourself to, one, the ever-evolving human that you are, and two, the landscape that's going to be in 10 years, this toolkit that you get from these liberal arts institutions is really, really powerful. That being said, there are fantastic journalism programs at institutions all over the country. I'm thinking of specifically, I think it's, there's a website, I think it's called Bright Futures, the College Board Bright Futures. You can just like Google that and you can put in specific majors that you're looking to go into and specific areas that you, like if you want to be in suburban or rural and what size school, and they actually narrow down all 4,000 colleges down to about 10 or 15, but depending on what your interest is. So for Justin, I think if you used that, I'll actually find it and then put it in the chat, but I don't know if you colleagues have anything to add in that capacity. Cool.
Perfect. All right, going to the next question. So this one comes from Josephine Lowry. She says, if a student has an outside scholarship, can they use that against federal loan or in lieu of work study, or will it reduce the institutional grant?
Here we go.
So I think that depends on what institutions they're applying to, which is a great opportunity to talk about the importance of talking to student aid officers now. The same way you are narrowing down your search by major, the same way you're narrowing down your search by location, you need to also be asking these specific questions about aid to every school you're applying to, because as we all know, if the money's not right, you're not going.
Right.
So I also wanted to add that your student aid officers will be resources for you all 4 years of college. Most of our schools ask you to reapply every year for aid. And so building those relationships now is just as important as emailing us in admissions, just as important as emailing a faculty member, just as important as getting to know current students. You want to start asking those questions now. I know for Bowdoin in particular, we try our best to let you keep every single dollar you get. And so if you are getting $10,000 in outside scholarship, we do our best to let you keep that unless the outside scholarship you are getting exceeds the cost of attendance. So you can't be making a profit on your scholarship money. So we will allow you to keep that money up to the point of what it costs to go to the school. And my colleagues are nodding, so I think that may be true at their schools as well. Wonderful, we're on the same page. We want you to keep your money. You worked for it, you should have it.
Yeah, I will say that there are some institutions that do have a little bit of a caveat. Like, let's say you win the Coca-Cola Foundation scholarship, and that's like what, $50,000. Once it reaches a certain number, schools will have to take it into account at some point, and then it will go towards, it'll change your, and this is for need-based aid. So if you're going to a school that meets 100% of need, it will shift that a little bit, but it's usually like you can have an additional award of outside of about like $15,000 that will help you pay for that and cover that. So yeah.
Perfect. So my next question, it's directly for Kyra and Carolyn. Does Pomona College or Bowdoin College offer a nursing program?
So at Pomona, we do not have a nursing program. We do have a pre-health track that is insanely comprehensive for helping students that are wanting to go into dental school, medical school, any school that is in that health field, you can go into that. But in terms of graduating as an RN from Pomona College, you are unable to do that.
Same. And so, as we mentioned, we're liberal arts schools, and so we are the same as Pomona in that respect. I'll also add that I would assume for all of our schools represented here, you do have the chance to really supplement your experience at our institution. So you can do things like off-campus studies. Maybe you want to study at a place for a semester or a year that does offer a nursing program, or maybe you want to do research at a school that does offer nursing, and maybe you can get funding for that through our institutions. So no, you cannot graduate as an RN from Bowdoin or Pomona, but you can get those experiences alongside this liberal arts experience to really focus in on the thing that you're passionate about.
And one thing I want to say as well, and I'd like to invite all of the schools represented to speak a little bit about this, because we do have a little bit more time. We tried to be like 60 seconds about our schools, go. But now we have a little bit more time to like let that breathe. If you go to any one of these schools, you will be insanely supported, both financially, in terms of mental and spiritual and physical well-being, and you will have people who are dedicated to building you up and teaching you. What's really cool about the colleges and that aspect is they're taught by professors, and the professors want you to learn, and they want to be hands-on, and you'll have access to resources in internships and study abroad. And so usurping these institutions and using everything that they have to really prepare you for your future and prepare you for what you think you want to do is really important. And I will let Jessica talk about UChicago now, and then you can popcorn next.
Yeah, thank you. So, and I think this kind of goes for all of us, but I know at UChicago specifically, every single student receives an academic advisor and a career advisor. These are two dedicated full-time staff members, and they're there to set you up for success academically, right? But then with the career advisor, they're there to help you find internships and research opportunities. So about 80% of undergrads at UChicago complete research during their time with us. We also have a program in terms of internships where we have about 3,000 paid substantive internships all over the world that are only available to UChicago students. And I think additionally, kind of as Carolyn mentioned, this goes outside of just, the student to faculty ratio or your professors or sort of the staff that are there to support you, but also in terms of just on-campus student life. Every single one of our institutions is going to have a wide variety of student support services, student organizations that kind of run the gamut, whether that is like something focused on your major or pre-professional or an identity or affinity group, anything like that. All of our campuses and our campus communities have a lot of different options and ways for you to feel like safe, supported, and sort of, set up for success on our campuses. So sorry, I spent a little bit of time talking about UChicago, but a little bit of time generalizing all of us. I think with UChicago specifically, we have 450 student organizations. We only have 7,000 students on our campus. So that's like a lot of student organizations per capita. We have some, more serious ones. We have a zombie apocalypse task force on our campus. So it goes to the quirky, really kind of depends on what you're interested in, ways to get involved and make sure that you're set up for success for whatever your next step may be. Julia, would you like to talk a little bit about BU?
Sure. So I believe that BU is by a lot of students, the largest university that is present on this call. We do have quite a few students. We're again 16,000, and then about an even amount of undergrads. And so there's a lot of BU students on our campus. But I think what's really wonderful about BU is that it doesn't feel like a large university at all. And I speak from full experience. We do our absolute best to make sure that our students are in small classes. And so our average class size is 27 students. All of our classes are taught by professors. all of our professors are required to have office hours. And as my colleagues have said, they are there to help you succeed. And I think that, you know, something that we say a lot in my office and around the university is that we don't let BU students do anything on their own if they don't want to. And so you will automatically be assigned an academic advisor within your department. We have career advisors, we have educational resource advisors. If you study abroad, you're going to have an advisor for study abroad. If you have a specific person for your financial aid. And so there is an entire team of people behind you that is guiding you and helping you along the way. We don't handhold because you are adults and we want you to be independent, but if you do need our support, we're going to be there for you. I don't want to talk too much about my student experience, but I never once felt unsupported when I was a student at BU. I really did feel like the resources were there for me. And so what we really encourage our students is to go out and talk to the offices. We have seminars for our first year students where it is specifically to introduce them to all of the resources on campus. And so that will really ease your transition from being a high school student to being a BU student. And so we want you to meet the people, the humans behind the offices. And everyone at BU is extremely welcoming. I have not once been turned away, even as a staff member, from anyone that provides support. And so you will find your pockets of home. We also have a lot of clubs and organizations. And so our students really find their small communities there. And so you build your small academic community through your school or college. You start to build community through your housing, and then you continue to build those communities through your extracurricular activities. And so you really do, it does feel like such a small liberal arts college, but you are in this big ocean of resources that will connect you to people around the world. And the resources expand to the alumni network. Once a terrier, always a terrier. Our alumni really love to help current students and new alumni as well, to sort of connect them to the entire world. And so it does feel like a family, as cheesy as that sounds. But you know, being a part of BU is you do get a small liberal arts college experience with all of the resources that come with being a part of such a massive institution. Kyra, take it away.
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to talk about the things you've already spoken about. So I'll segue into community, which you talked a bit about. So I want to touch on what it looks like to become a community member. How do we integrate you into the Bowdoin experience? And so interestingly enough, when you arrive at Bowdoin for move-in day, you drop your bags, you say goodbye to your families, friends, whoever dropped you off came with you. If anyone came, they leave by 4 p.m. And then you go to the field house, you have a massive slumber party with your entire first year class, and then you leave. So you go on our orientation trips, and our goal is really to get you, again, we're very tied to our location, and so to get you to see Maine in a different light. So 80% of our orientation trips are run by our outing club. So that may mean that you go whitewater rafting, kayaking, canoeing, you may go hiking or backpacking, and this is for 3 or 4 days. Or the other 20% of our trips are run by our McKean Center for the Common Good, which I touched on earlier, and these are service-based trips. So one of the most popular trips in this segment is a trip up to one of the Native American reservations in northern Maine, just to really, again, be cognizant of where we're located, whose land we're on, that type of thing. And so if you're not someone who wants to go sit in a boat, then maybe you want to learn a bit of the history about the place that you're in. And the great thing about these trips is that there are only about 10 first-year students that go on each trip, and then you have 2 upperclassmen who lead the trips. And so right off the bat, you have a small community. And my own philosophical love of this is that it makes it so that Bowdoin is a place everyone is returning to instead of going away to. So yes, you're coming from all around the world, 40 different countries, all the different states, but we immediately allow you to leave with your class, and then you're coming back, and it's home for all of you when you come back. And so that's really exciting. Once you get back, you meet your first year advisor, and at that point, you choose your classes with someone who can really walk you through what it looks like to have balance. We touched on that earlier. Not wanting you to take 4 science classes, for example. That would be really hard. So maybe throwing in an arts class or throwing in an English course or a history course to balance that out. You'll build community, as Julia talked about, through your residential hall. You'll build community through these small orientation groups. You'll build communities through your advising groups, and all these different ways to make it so that, again, each of our institutions can be your home, because I know we have a lot of those similar things. But I wanted to share about orientation trips just to give you a different flavor in the mix. And I'll pass it over to Carolyn now.
Carolyn, 1 second. Before we go on to the next question, I think there's another question. I wanted to go back to the list of colleges who are and universities who are participating next week. That list has been released by the by Alabama State Department of Education. We will be sending it to our partners and all today or by tomorrow. So it has been released by Alabama State Department of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Manisha. It's actually, our hour is up with you all, so I don't think we have any more time for more questions. But I just wanted to leave you all with some confidence, hopefully, that you found this information to be really helpful, and you should feel confident that we are all incredibly open to answering questions that you have further after this webinar. Please feel free to utilize us as resources. We can all drop our emails in the chat, and you can send us an email if you're interested in. We just wanted to, again, offer ourselves, and also I hope that you're finding little moments in life where you can find joy in the little things and breathe and know that we are all going through this together, and each one of our institutions will be as flexible and responsive to changes that are happening to you and your community and your high school as possible. And we wish you well. And I'm sorry, Justin, I saw your question about the 3.6 GPA. You are absolutely qualified to go to a fine institution, but that's a little bit into the weeds. So I feel like emailing any one of us to support you and answer that question might be a little bit more helpful. But we wish you well, and we hope that, again, you stay safe in this really chaotic and hectic world. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time out of their day to be with us. Thank you to our college admissions officers from your schools and just sharing your insight and sharing this information with our students. We pray that the educators and the students and everyone who was on this call took a bit of information. And so thank you again. You guys have a great day.